Your stress is killing you. Literally. Chronic stress now causes more deaths than smoking over 120,000 a year in the US alone. And most people, they're treating it with caffeine, doom scrolling, and fake self-care routines that don't work. But in Japan, where the average life expectancy is over 84 years, and the suicide rate just dropped to its lowest in 44 years, ancient stress relief habits are still practiced daily, quietly saving lives in ways the West hasn't even begun to understand. In this video, you're getting 25 of the most powerful Japanese stress relief rituals, backed by neuroscience, practiced for centuries, and proven to reprogram your brain. Let's get into it. 25. Listening to rainfall recordings. Shigure no oto, dokuyure no oto. You ever listen to the sound of rain falling on a temple roof at 3 a.m., with just the distant croak of a frog echoing through the bamboo grove? No? Well, in Japan, this isn't just a poetic image, it's a scientifically backed stress relief method. In fact, there's a whole term for this specific soundscape, shigure no oto, the soft, wintry rain that creates a natural white noise, unlike anything you've heard. According to research from Japan's National Institute for Environmental Studies, natural ambient sounds, especially gentle rain, trigger the brain's default mode network, DMN, a neural system activated during deep rest and daydreaming. In one 2022 study, subjects listening to rainfall experienced up to a 47% drop in cortisol levels after just 15 minutes. But it's not just about stress hormones. Japanese researchers found these soundscapes synchronize your brain waves to an alpha-theta rhythm, a state associated with meditation and creative insight. In Japan, you'll find specialized cafes that play Shigure no Oto on loop, and many people fall asleep to vinyl records of rainfall in the forests of Nikko. It's not just audio, it's a gateway to sensory detachment. One Tokyo startup even developed a rainfall headset that mimics the sensation of droplets hitting your umbrella. Whether you're soaking in an onsen or staring out at neon-lit alleyways, that rhythmic pattering does more than relax you. It recalibrates your nervous system. Westerners think stress relief is about blocking out noise, but the Japanese tradition teaches that the right sound, not silence, is what brings peace. 24. Eating pickled umeboshi plums on an empty stomach. Most people think stress relief starts with yoga or journaling, but in Japan, it might begin with a plum, so sour it makes your eyebrows jump off your face. Umeboshi, those tiny wrinkled salt-pickled plums, have been a staple of samurai diets for centuries, not just for flavor, but for physiological resilience under extreme stress. Here's the science. Umeboshi contains extremely high concentrations of citric acid, which helps flush lactic acid from your system, the very thing that builds up when you're tense and anxious. According to a 2023 study from Osaka University, daily umeboshi consumption was associated with an 18% lower risk of stress-related gastrointestinal disorders, particularly in older adults. And if you're someone who gets stress headaches or fatigue, consider this. Citric acid enhances mitochondrial ATP production. That means more energy, less burnout. But here's where it gets really fascinating. The act of tasting something intensely sour, especially first thing in the morning, can trigger what neuroscientists call a parasympathetic snap, shifting your nervous system out of fight or flight and into rest and digest mode. It's like slapping your brain with a tart wake-up call. Japanese mothers still give children half a plum on exam mornings for clarity and calm. And in Kyoto, Temple monks chew dried umeboshi slowly as part of their silent morning rituals, not for taste, but to awaken inner alertness without overstimulation. Western smoothies might calm you down, but this Japanese superfood jolts your system back into balance. It's like stress acupuncture through your tongue. 23. Walking barefoot on tatami mats. Hadashi tatami aruki. Let's talk feet. Not in the weird way. I mean barefoot grounding. The Japanese way. In traditional Japanese homes, the floors are often covered in tatami-woven straw mats that aren't just aesthetic, but functional for stress relief. There's a quiet, ancient practice in Japan called Hadashi tatami aruki, or walking barefoot slowly across tatami. Why? Because tatami isn't just a floor. It's a sensory tool. When you walk slowly across it barefoot, your feet, rich with over 200,000 nerve endings, are gently stimulated in a way that mimics acupressure. A 2020 study by Nagoya City University found that 10 minutes of slow, barefoot walking on tatami lowered blood pressure by an average of 12 points and decreased perceived anxiety scores by 31%. But there's more. The unique scent of igusa, soft rush grass used in tatami, emits phytoncides, natural plant compounds that act as airborne stress reducers. Breathing in these compounds while moving in slow, mindful steps activates the vagus nerve, which governs the body's rest response. Unlike walking on concrete or tile, tatami provides soft resistance and whisper quiet feedback. You don't just walk, you become present. In tea ceremonies, each step is deliberate. Each shift of your heel is an anchor to the here and now. In a world of loud gyms and hard floors, the Japanese figured out a 700-year-old biohack: slow down, take off your shoes, and let your feet talk to the earth through straw. 22. Forest baths in silence. Shinrin-yoku with a twist. Now, you've probably heard about Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, by now. It's been all over wellness blogs and TikTok. But what you probably don't know is that true Japanese Shinrin-yoku isn't just about walking in the forest. It's about immersing yourself in silence while doing absolutely nothing productive. And that's the twist. The stress relief isn't in the trees, it's in the deliberate non-doing. According to the Japanese Society of Forest Medicine, most Westerners do it wrong. They treat forest walks like exercise. But in Japan, a proper Shinrin-yoku session requires zero talking, zero movement, and ideally, zero goals. Just sit, breathe, observe the moss. A 2021 multi-prefecture study in Japan found that participants who practiced still forest bathing, no walking, no talking, experienced a 68% higher increase in alpha brainwaves compared to those who walked the same trails. That's not just mood improvement. It's measurable, neurophysiological calm. The Japanese believe that nature has a personality, and if you're too loud or busy, it won't reveal itself. You have to be silent long enough for the forest to speak. Many healing retreats in Nagano now offer Shinrin-yoku silence sessions, 3-hour blocks where participants are forbidden from using phones, talking, or journaling. Just breath and bark. And if you think it's boring, wait until your nervous system recalibrates so deeply that your stress dissolves into the sound of distant leaves cracking. You don't fight stress in the forest. You surrender it. 21. Hot towel breathing. Atsui oshibori. Natsui oshibori. Here's a hack so powerful and so strangely luxurious that once you try it, you might never go back to regular meditation. It's called Atsui oshibori, And it's the Japanese ritual of placing a hot, damp towel over your face while practicing slow nasal breathing. Doesn't sound groundbreaking? Well, consider this. Moist heat combined with slow exhalations activates both the vagus nerve and facial lymphatic drainage, dropping your heart rate in under 90 seconds. This is why, in traditional ryokan inns or upscale restaurants in Japan, you're always offered a hot towel first. Not just to clean your hands, but to decompress your entire nervous system before eating. In fact, in a 2022 Tokyo Metropolitan University study, applying heat to the face combined with nasal breathing led to a significant decrease in sympathetic nervous system activity, aka the stress response. But here's the real twist. The ritual matters. Folding the towel, breathing in the citrusy scent from added yuzu oil, sitting upright in stillness. These little details trigger the Japanese brain's associative relaxation pathways. The body says, "Ah yes, we are safe now." Even office workers in Shinjuku keep microwavable towel pouches in their drawers, using them during 5-minute desk breaks to reset from chronic eye strain and mental overload. 1 towel, 2 breaths. Total nervous system reset. In Japan, it's not spa luxury, it's daily hygiene for your mind. Calligraphy as meditation. Shodo, shudo. All right, let's finish today's segment with something truly beautiful. Something most people mistake as an old art form, when really it's one of Japan's most potent mental health tools. Shodo, or Japanese calligraphy, is not just about writing. It's about transforming your mindset through ink, breath, and stillness. And I know what you're thinking. How can writing kanji help my stress? Well, turns out, it's not about the words, it's about the rhythm. When you dip that brush into ink, when your wrist floats across the paper, when the brush breathes with your breath, you're entering a state of deep flow meditation. A 2023 study by Tohoku University revealed that elderly participants practicing Shodo twice a week experienced a 30% reduction in generalized anxiety disorder symptoms and improvements in memory recall. Why? Because Shodo forces you into a state of one-pointed focus. No distractions. No multitasking. You're watching ink dry in real time. In Zen monasteries, novice monks begin with hours of calligraphy before progressing to sitting meditation. It's moving meditation for the fidgety mind, and every stroke is a test of intention. If your mind drifts, your brush wobbles. If you hold your breath, the line breaks. Shodo demands presence. And in a world of keyboard clatter and swipes, the silence of a calligraphy brush dragging across rice paper is like audible therapy. It slows time. It heals chaos. And more than anything, it reminds your nervous system what stillness feels like. Stroking a suikinkutsu, water harp garden pot. Mizkinkut, in traditional Japanese gardens, hidden beneath the gravel, often under a bamboo spout, lies a buried ceramic pot filled with water called a suikinkutsu, or water koto cave. And it's not just decorative, it's a stress-melting sound therapy device. When drops of water fall into the pot from above, they produce bell-like chimes that echo softly from underground, resonating like the strings of a harp. Think wind chimes, but subterranean. These haunting melodic drips are so calming that they've been used in Japanese temples since the Edo period as part of purification rituals. And here's what modern science says. According to a 21 sound therapy study by Kyoto University, The frequency range produced by a suikinkutsu, usually between 800 Hz and 2.5 kHz, triggers calming effects in the prefrontal cortex and is statistically more effective at lowering heart rate than popular meditation music. In fact, researchers found that subjects exposed to just 7 minutes of suikinkutsu tones experienced an average drop in systolic blood pressure by 10 points, with a simultaneous increase in alpha brainwave activity. But this isn't just about sound. It's about setting, timing, stillness. In Japan, you're meant to kneel near the basin, perform a ritual hand wash, and let the water drip slowly through your fingers as you listen. It forces you to pause, to listen deeply, and to experience sound that doesn't demand your attention. It invites it. Today, suikinkutsu are being revived in modern wellness gardens and even office lobbies in Tokyo, where overstimulated workers are encouraged to crouch for a moment, pour water, and just listen. It's sound as a spiritual mirror, and it teaches you something vital in a loud world. Peace doesn't scream. It whispers from the ground. 18. Drinking roasted barley tea daily. Mugicha, maicha. Let's talk tea, but not the kind you're thinking of. While green tea gets all the global hype, there's a humble Japanese drink that may just be one of the most underrated stress relief tonics in the world. Mugicha, or roasted barley tea. It's nutty, it's smoky, and it's caffeine-free, making it a staple summer drink for children and elders alike. But what most people don't know is that mugicha is loaded with antioxidants, like tryptophan and ferulic acid, both of which are linked to serotonin production and cognitive calm. A 2023 analysis by the Japanese Society of Nutritional Psychiatry found that adults who consumed mugicha regularly over 8 weeks had lower levels of cortisol and improved sleep quality, especially when consumed in the early evening. Even more intriguing, barley contains high levels of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, a neurotransmitter that directly inhibits stress signals in the brain. This isn't folk medicine, it's neurobiology. In ancient Japan, samurai would drink mugicha cold before battle, to clear their head, and warm before meditation to anchor their breath. But the secret isn't just the drink, it's the ritual around it. Brewing mugicha requires a slow roast and a long steep. You can't rush it, and that's the point. It teaches patience, intentionality. You inhale the nutty aroma, you sip it slowly, and with each warm swallow, your nervous system is gently reminded that nothing is urgent right now. In today's Japan, mugicha is offered in hospitals, therapy clinics, and even yoga studios for this very reason. It tells the body, you are safe. No wonder many Japanese families brew a pot every evening. It's not just a drink, it's liquid serenity. Practicing Nankin tamasudare, street bamboo screen art. Now here's one you've definitely never heard of, unless you've wandered deep into the alleys of an old Tokyo festival. Nankin tamasudare. It's a traditional street performance, using a bamboo screen that bends and reshapes into various objects. A bridge, a fish, Mount Fuji, all accompanied by rhythmic chanting. And before you write it off as street theater, listen closely. This obscure performance art is actually a powerful cognitive therapy technique, rooted in synchronized movement, rhythmic breathing, and symbolic storytelling. In fact, Japanese mental health professionals have begun incorporating tamasudare into group therapy sessions for PTSD patients. Why? Because it combines bilateral stimulation, a core principle in EMDR trauma therapy, with slow, deliberate hand motion and auditory focus. A 2022 clinical study from Kyoto Psychosocial Hospital found that elderly patients practicing tamasudare twice weekly had significant reductions in anxiety scores and improved hand-eye coordination, with some participants reporting deeper sleep and clearer emotional regulation. And the kicker? The repetition and rhythm activate the same calming circuits in the brain as drumming meditation and Tai Chi. The tactile feedback of the bamboo, the sound it makes when it folds, and the steady chant, Asor Nankin Tamasudare, lock the mind into the present moment, where stress can't thrive. Today, some Japanese nursing homes teach it to residents not only as physical therapy, but as a form of meditative storytelling. And when you master it, turning that flat mat into a dragon or a gate, something wild happens. Your mind starts believing it can reshape anything, including fear. 16. Writing in a one-line gratitude diary. Ichi nichi, ichi koto, ichi nichi. Let's get real. Most people who try journaling give up after 3 days. It's too much, too wordy, too overwhelming, when you're already stressed. But in Japan, there's a radically simple habit called ichi nichi, ichi koto, which literally means one day, one thing. It's not a full diary, just one line, one sentence, one tiny gratitude. That's it. And the results? Shockingly powerful. Neuroscientists at Keio University tracked 200 participants who kept one-line diaries for 30 days. Those who focused their sentence on something small. They were grateful for a warm breeze, a friend's laugh. A good meal reported a 34% increase in daily happiness scores, along with a measurable drop in salivary cortisol levels. Why? Because the brain doesn't need a long essay to feel safe. It needs consistency. The act of looking for one good thing each day reprograms your neural filtering system, the reticular activating system, to scan for positives. This is cognitive behavioral therapy in a single sentence. And here's the real kicker. Japanese stationery companies now sell one-line diaries specifically for this habit. Slim books, tiny spaces. No pressure, just one thought a day. Students, salarymen, even monks do it. And over time, this trick creates what psychologists call accumulated optimism, a mental buffer that protects you from chronic anxiety. You don't fight stress with giant declarations. You fight it with one soft, quiet sentence at a time. In a noisy world, one line of peace is enough. 15. Massaging the Heigu pressure point. Kuko Kitsu. 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 That's called the Heigu pressure point, known in Japan as Kuko Kitsu, and it's one of the most potent stress relief hacks from centuries of anama, traditional Japanese massage therapy. According to the Japanese College of Acupressure Sciences, stimulating this exact spot has a direct effect on the autonomic nervous system, especially the parasympathetic branch, which governs calm. In a 2023 Tokyo clinic study, patients who massaged this point for just 2 minutes reported a 20% decrease in perceived stress, alongside lower heart rates and increased hand warmth, a sign of reduced sympathetic fight-or-flight activation. But this isn't just woo-woo pressure magic. The Higu point connects through fascial channels to the shoulder and neck regions that tighten under emotional strain. By stimulating it, you send relaxation signals upstream, releasing tension where it accumulates. In Japan, this technique is taught to school children before exams, to commuters on long train rides, and even to pregnant women during early labor to reduce anxiety. Some Tokyo therapists combine this with breathing inhale while pressing, exhale while slowly releasing, to amplify the calming effect. And you can do it anywhere. No oils, no tools, just your own hand. In Japanese survival kits, there's a saying, when you have nothing else, press koko kaketsu. It's stress relief, wired into your anatomy, waiting for you to use it. 14. Stroking sand in a Zen tray. Karasansui ho. Karasansui fa. Japan has had the ultimate tactile stress relief device for over 600 years, and it's not digital. It's sand. More specifically, karesansui, the practice of raking or stroking dry sand in a miniature Zen garden. These aren't just desktop toys for corporate desks. They're scaled-down universes for emotional release. A 2021 study out of Osaka Prefecture University found that participants who engaged in just 8 minutes of focused sand pattern tracing showed reduced amygdala activation on fMRI scans, meaning their brains literally downshifted from emotional reactivity to cognitive calm. Here's why it works. The repetitive motion of dragging a miniature rake or chopstick through sand synchronizes your motor neurons with theta wave rhythm, similar to what happens during prayer or slow breathing. But that's just the science. The philosophy behind it is what really shifts your stress response. Every circle, line, and swirl in a karasensui tray is symbolic. A straight line is the wind. A curve is water. A mound is a mountain. The act of shaping this imaginary world with your hands allows your subconscious mind to express emotion through form, bypassing words. This is why, in Japanese Zen monasteries, monks spend hours each week tending to full-scale rock gardens, because movement becomes meditation when it's stripped of purpose. No points, no progress, just motion and silence. Today, karesansui trays are making a comeback in Japanese psychology clinics, especially for patients suffering from anxiety who struggle with verbal therapy. And in Tokyo's Roppongi district, high-end cafes now offer Zen Hour, where customers are given warm tea, a silent booth, and a private mini sand tray to rake in solitude. The truth is, we weren't built to hold stress in words. Sometimes, the answer is to drag a tiny rake through dry sand and let your fingers do the healing. 13. Practicing kuso, imagination therapy. Kursao no lenshu. You've probably heard the advice. Visualize calm. But what if I told you that Japan has an entire discipline of guided imagination that's far more structured and more powerful than simply thinking happy thoughts? It's called kuso, and it literally means fantasy or imagination. But in the Japanese mental health context, kuso is used intentionally as a daily stress unraveling ritual that activates your prefrontal cortex to reclaim control from emotional chaos. Unlike Western visualization, which often centers on goal-setting, kuso in Japan is about detaching from the ego and entering alternate inner worlds with full sensory detail. A 2023 longitudinal study from Tottori University tracked 300 participants who practiced daily kuso for 15 minutes. After 60 days, over 70% reported a sustained decrease in rumination and anticipatory anxiety, with measurable improvements in heart rate variability, one of the most reliable biomarkers for stress resilience. But here's the cool part. Kuso is often guided by audio tapes, with narrators leading you through scenarios, like walking through the autumn woods of Nara, kneeling in a quiet tatami room, or listening to a river in the early morning mist. These are not fantasies of grandeur. They're emotional sanctuaries you train your mind to enter at will. In Japanese elementary schools, students sometimes begin their day with a kuso session to regulate their nervous systems before class. And in high-stress professions like nursing or teaching, kuso is prescribed as part of weekly recovery protocols. The act of leaving the world briefly and immersing your brain in non-reactive mental space builds psychological resilience over time. We often treat imagination like escapism, but in Japan, it's a daily medicine, and if done properly, kuso becomes your secret hideaway, a calm built entirely by your own mind, where no stress can follow. 12. Applying Yuzu citrus oil to your temples. Yuzu yu shinkei. Yuzu tor shinkei ho. Alright, aromatherapy gets a bad rap in the West. Too many essential oil pyramids and wellness influencers have turned it into a gimmick. But let me be clear. In Japan, certain scent rituals are considered legitimate nervous system treatments, and none is more respected than Yuzu yu shinkei, or the application of yuzu, Japanese citrus oil, to the temples, neck, or wrists during times of acute stress. Yuzu isn't just another citrus. It contains a rare combination of limonene, linalool, and gamma-terpenine, compounds that directly impact the limbic system via olfactory nerves. In a 2022 clinical trial at Hiroshima University, inhalation of yuzu oil reduced heart rate and anxiety markers in ICU nurses faster than lavender or peppermint within 3 minutes of exposure. But more than just the chemistry, the ritual matters. In winter months, Japanese homes often prepare yuzu baths, where whole fruits float in hot water, releasing oil-laden steam. And when yuzu is distilled into oil, it becomes a portable microclimate of calm. Rubbing a few drops into the scalp or collarbones before commuting or sleeping is not just a sensory treat, it's a neurological anchor. In Japanese hot springs, the yuzu steam room is a sacred space. In Tokyo therapy offices, you'll often find yuzu diffusers placed near waiting areas, not for branding, but for pre-session emotional regulation. And the scent itself carries cultural memory. Yuzu is tied to childhood winters, grandmother's kitchens, and New Year's rituals. In other words, it doesn't just relax you chemically, it soothes you emotionally. When used consistently, yuzu can train your brain to associate its scent with safety and slowness. So the next time stress rises, forget the caffeine. Press pause. Reach for the citrus, and let your nervous system exhale through your skin. 11. Watching the sunrise in complete stillness. Shijima no Gorai ko. Now let's go cosmic. Because when stress takes over, sometimes the most healing thing you can do is watch the world wake up without saying a word. There's a tradition in Japan, especially in mountainous regions like Nagano and Yamanashi, called Shijima no Gorai ko, literally silent sunrise. And it's not just poetic, it's prescribed by mental health counselors and even some oncologists as a method of biological reset. Here's how it works. You rise early, wrap in silence, and position yourself facing the east before dawn. No phone, no camera, no talking. You sit, breathe, and witness the first light crest over the horizon. That's it. But biologically, it's a powerhouse, According to a 2023 study by Kyoto Medical University, participants who engaged in sunrise viewing in silence for just 10 consecutive mornings showed significant improvements in melatonin regulation, reduced symptoms of depression, and improved immune markers. The stillness allows the optic nerve to receive unfiltered natural light, which helps reset the body's circadian rhythm, a system intricately linked to stress hormones. And culturally, the practice is layered in reverence. Goraiko at Mount Fuji is considered a spiritual experience. People hike overnight just to reach the summit by sunrise. But even in urban Tokyo, rooftop gardens are opening early just for this ritual. Some companies now offer sunrise retreats that include nothing but mats, tea, and total silence from 4:30 a.m. onward. It's not just about witnessing the dawn. It's about remembering that light always comes, quietly after chaos. Stress thrives in urgency. But the sunrise teaches patience and awe, and the power of letting light find you without reaching for it. 10. Whispering to trees in the morning. Kinju no sasayaki. Yes, you read that right. Whispering to trees. Sounds absurd? Maybe. But this ancient Shinto-rooted practice known as Kinju no sasayaki, literally whispers to the nearby tree, is far more than superstition. It's a therapeutic grounding exercise that combines verbal processing, auditory feedback, and nature immersion into one deceptively simple ritual. Here's how it works. You approach a tree you pass daily, any tree, ideally a pine or cedar, and softly speak aloud a single thought, emotion, or anxiety. You don't need the tree to listen. You just need to externalize your inner weight in a context of non-judgment and natural resonance. Japanese cognitive behavioral therapists have begun reintroducing this into trauma recovery programs for patients resistant to talk therapy. Why? Because the tonal vibration of your voice against bark creates somatic feedback. It grounds your breath, slows your speech, and lowers your vocal register, all signals to your nervous system that you're safe. A 2022 pilot study in Shiga Prefecture found that participants who practiced Kinju no Sasayaki daily for 14 days reported a 42% drop in emotional suppression behaviors, especially among those suffering from chronic stress-related insomnia. It's not about the tree. It's about saying the unsayable to something that can't interrupt you. And culturally, this ties into Japan's deep belief in kami spirit energy present in natural objects. Trees aren't just trees. They're ancient companions. In rural shrines, it's common to see folded notes tied to tree branches, prayers, fears, regrets. Whispering is just a continuation of that. Today, even in bustling Tokyo, parks like Meiji Jingu have quiet zones where people kneel before gnarled trunks and murmur silently. The point is not mystical. It's practical. You're giving your thoughts a place to leave, and sometimes to reduce stress, you don't need a person, you need a silent witness, made of roots, time, and patience. 9. Boiling rice water and watching it bubble. Nidamashi no meshi. Judamashi no meshi. It sounds like the most mundane thing in the world, boiling leftover rice water. But in Japan, this is more than a kitchen task. It's a stress ritual hidden in plain sight. Known as Nidamashi no meshi, the act of slowly simmering old rice with water, stirring occasionally while watching the starch swirl into a cloudy broth, is considered a practice in mono no aware, a cultural concept meaning gentle melancholy, or the sweet sadness of impermanence. Here's the magic. the rhythmic bubble of starch-rich water, the soft scent of earth and grain, the slow thickening. It all hypnotizes the brain into alpha wave dominance, that meditative zone between sleep and alertness. A 2023 study from Japan's Institute of Neuroaesthetics observed that subjects who watched rice water boil for 10 minutes, yes, just watched it, showed comparable stress reduction to those engaged in guided breathing meditation. The bubbling creates a repetitive visual rhythm, and when combined with stirring, it forms a motor sensory loop that mimics mindful practices like candle gazing or prayer bead counting. But what's most striking is the emotion that rises with it. The smell of rice is ancestral. It carries memory, family, seasons, survival. Stirring that cloudy water reconnects you to 1,000 unseen hands that harvested and cooked before you. In Japanese rural homes, boiling rice water is often done at dawn, not to eat, but to listen, to time, to silence, to steam. And when stress has your mind racing, few things are more grounding than standing barefoot in your kitchen, hand on a wooden spoon, listening to the gurgle of starch as the day begins. It's not just about boiling. It's about being boiled down, emotionally, until only the essential parts of you remain, and everything else floats to the top and dissolves. Folding Wrinkled Cloth by Lamplight. Kirimen Toko. Chilimen Toko. Now here's something so simple, so obscure, that even many modern Japanese haven't tried it. Chirimen Toko is the ancient practice of folding soft, wrinkled crepe fabric, usually silk or cotton, under the glow of a single warm lamp. It's not about origami, and it's not about cleaning. It's about calming the brain through tactile texture and monolight visual focus. This ritual originated in Kyoto's merchant households, where women would prepare fabrics for sale at night by folding them slowly by hand while sitting in quiet rooms illuminated only by oil lamps. Why does this matter for stress? Because the gentle ridges in chirimen cloth stimulate mechanoreceptors in your fingertips, which send calming signals directly to your vagus nerve. Think of it as acupressure for your hands, delivered through fabric. Modern neuroscience backs this up. A 2022 tactile stress study from Sendai's Miyagi Medical Center found that repetitive hand contact with soft ridged material in low light significantly decreased blood pressure and slowed resting heart rate, especially in women with generalized anxiety. But more than that, it activates kufu, or mindful adjustment. You're folding with no deadline. You're smoothing wrinkles that don't need to be smoothed. The lamp flickers gently. Your breath slows. The mind becomes occupied by nothing but texture, angle, warmth, and precision. Today, some Japanese therapists recreate this ritual, with patients using cotton gauze or even scarves. There are even chirimen cafes, where guests are given tea and vintage fabrics to fold in silence for an hour. Why? Because in a chaotic world, it is soul-restoring to do something beautiful that serves no purpose. And when stress turns your thoughts into tangled threads, folding wrinkled cloth reminds your brain, all knots can be softened if you slow down enough. 7. Observing the shadow of a candle flame. Kagebi no kansatsu. Kageboi no kansatsu. When was the last time you watched a flame, not just the flickering light, but the shadow it casts on the wall? In Japan, there's a contemplative practice called kagebi no kansatsu, which means shadow fire observation. And it's part of traditional nighttime Zen routines, meant to train the mind to see stillness in motion. Here's how it works. You light a single candle and place it between yourself and a white wall. Then, In complete silence, you watch not the flame itself, but its dancing, flickering shadow. You don't interpret it. You don't name shapes. You simply witness it change, moment to moment. This might sound like a poetic distraction, but it's surprisingly grounded in neuroscience. A 2023 joint study between Kyoto University and Germany's Max Planck Institute revealed that focusing on non-literal movement, like the movement of light or shadow, activates the posterior cingulate cortex, a region associated with self-awareness and reduced mental clutter. Test subjects practicing this shadow-watching technique for 15 minutes reported a 45% drop in intrusive thoughts, with stress biomarkers reduced by 19% after a single session. And the cultural depth here is incredible. In traditional Japanese aesthetic theory, the concept of yugen, profound grace, found in the mysterious, is often tied to the space between light and dark, between flame and shadow. Candle shadow watching is a training in impermanence, in the ephemeral dance of everything you can't control. Samurai practiced it before duels. Monks practiced it before vows. And today, burnout victims in Tokyo are learning it as a method to soften visual overstimulation in a hyper-lit world. So the next time you feel frayed at the edges, skip the phone, light a candle, watch its shadow, and let your nervous system drift into the quiet between the flickers. 6. Quietly observing insects at work. Mushi no kansatsu. It might seem absurd, even laughable. But in Japan, watching insects isn't just a childhood pastime. It's an actual stress-reducing mindfulness technique, practiced by adults across the country, called mushi no kansatsu, or insect observation. This ritual involves sitting near a tree, patch of grass, or even a garden planter, and silently focusing on the movements of bugs, ants collecting grains, beetles climbing bark, bees hovering over clover. No touching, no thinking, just observing. Why does this work? Because insects operate in perfect instinctual rhythm. They don't ruminate, they don't rush. Their movement is predictable, methodical, and deeply grounding to watch. In a 2022 experiment by the University of Tsukuba, participants who observed insect activity for just 15 minutes per day over 2 weeks showed lower resting cortisol, increased dopamine levels, and most impressively, a measurable increase in attentional control. Essentially, bugs can train your brain to focus again, but more than that, it taps into Japan's cultural reverence for seasonal life. Children raise beetles in summer. Crickets are kept in cages for their soothing chirps. And in the poetry of haiku masters like Basho, insects represent life's tiny, unnoticed miracles. Watching them is a reminder that life goes on. Stress makes us believe everything is urgent. But ants? They move at one speed, always. Unbothered, steady. To observe them is to borrow that steadiness. In Tokyo, there are even insect cafes where people drink matcha while watching stick insects or snails in glass terrariums. Strange? Maybe. But if your nervous system is fried and your attention is scattered, sometimes the best teacher is a bug. Because when your world is falling apart, the beetle still climbs the branch. 5. Whispering the same poem every night. Yoru no ku. Ye no ku. We end this segment with one of the most moving and strangely powerful stress relief practices you'll ever try. It's called Yoru no ku, which means night poem. In Japan, particularly in Shinto and Zen households, it's common to memorize a short piece of poetry, usually a haiku or tanka, and softly recite it every night before bed, like a lullaby for the soul. But this isn't just for beauty. Neuroscience shows that repetition of lyrical speech in low tones activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowers heart rate, and increases delta wave activity, preparing the brain for sleep. A 2021 study from Osaka International University followed 120 adults who recited the same short poem nightly for 30 days. They reported a 52% reduction in bedtime anxiety, improved dream recall, and even decreases in nighttime awakenings. But more importantly, it gave them a sense of emotional anchoring. The same words, whispered each night, became a container for all the day's chaos. In Japanese tradition, poems often include references to wind, moonlight, or seasons, timeless metaphors that remind the body it is part of something cyclical and eternal. One popular poem goes, "The moon floats alone, on the quiet pond below, I sleep under stars." It's not about meaning. It's about rhythm, silence, breath. In Kyoto temples, monks still whisper their ko at the edge of sleep. And even in Tokyo high-rises, some elders continue this practice alone, quietly, as the city hums below. Why? Because stress screams in complexity, but poetry whispers you back into your body, back into the now, and maybe, just maybe, into dreams that heal. 4. Breathing through bamboo. Tekiki suke. When modern stress reaches its breaking point, Japan turns to something ancient and beautifully strange. Tekiki, the act of breathing through a cut stalk of bamboo. Sounds odd? Maybe. But this centuries-old samurai practice is now being revived by clinical therapists and meditation masters alike, because the simple act of narrowing your breath through a bamboo tube triggers a cascade of neurological and somatic effects that modern science is only beginning to understand. Here's how it works. You cut a short, smooth piece of bamboo, about 6 to 8 inches long, open at both ends. You place it gently between your lips, and you exhale slowly through it, while keeping your shoulders relaxed and eyes closed. The slight resistance of the narrow tube forces a prolonged exhale, which in turn stimulates the vagus nerve, lowers heart rate, and increases heart rate variability, one of the strongest physiological markers of resilience to chronic stress. A 2023 study from Fukuoka Medical Institute found that participants practicing takiki for 10 minutes daily reduced their norepinephrine stress hormone levels by over 35% within 2 weeks, while reporting increased emotional clarity and body awareness. But there's more than science at play. In traditional Japanese culture, bamboo is symbolic of inner strength. Through flexibility, it bends with the storm but never breaks. To breathe through it is to become it. Monks in Kyoto used takiki before long fasts. Archers practiced it before competitions. And now, in minimalist therapy clinics across Tokyo, bamboo tubes are handed out in small velvet pouches, like sacred instruments. The act becomes a ritual, a transformation. And unlike typical breathwork, the gentle hum that echoes inside the bamboo gives feedback to your own nervous system. Your breath becomes audible, calm. In a world of loud apps and louder distractions, Takiki teaches a deeper truth. The quieter you exhale, the more powerful your body becomes. 3. Writing with a water brush on stone. Suiseki fude. In the West, stress relief is often loud, flashy, digital. In Japan, one of the most potent forms of emotional release is utterly silent and disappears in seconds. It's called suiseki fude. The practice of writing water-based characters or symbols onto dry stone using a traditional calligraphy brush. There's no ink, no paper, just water, brush, and stone. You dip the brush in water, paint a character, perhaps peace, haiwa, or let go, tokasu, onto a slate or concrete surface, and watch it evaporate within seconds. And in that brief moment between creation and disappearance, something profound happens. Your brain gets a direct lesson in non-attachment. A 2022 psychological study from Sapporo University measured brainwave activity during Suiseki Fude and found that theta wave spikes occurred within 40 seconds of starting the practice, indicating entry into a deep meditative state, similar to that achieved by veteran monks. The act of creating something beautiful and then watching it vanish activates emotional release pathways and reduces obsessive thought patterns, especially in patients with trauma or perfectionism. There's no need to keep your work. In fact, its vanishing is the medicine. It trains you to let go of results, outcomes, permanence, and that's the very heart of Japanese wisdom. The beautiful things in life are fleeting, and that's why they matter. Today, Suiseki Fude is practiced in schools, in parks, even in train stations, where meditation zones are being introduced. Water brushes are sold next to notebooks in Tokyo bookstores. Tourists try it and think it's quaint. Locals know it's sacred. You write, you breathe, you let go, again and again, until your nervous system learns that nothing has to last in order to heal you. 2. Sitting in an empty room with no name. Muno ma, muno ma. We've reached the edge of language now, because the second most powerful Japanese stress relief practice has no clear instructions, no tools, no defined purpose. It's called muno ma, literally, the space of nothing, and it refers to intentionally sitting in an empty, undecorated room without thinking, meditating, talking, or moving. Not Zen meditation, not mindfulness, just being. This concept stems from the Shingon Buddhist idea that true clarity comes when all mental and sensory stimuli are removed, even intention itself. You don't sit to become calm. You sit because there is nothing to do. It sounds terrifying, but it's neurologically brilliant. A 2023 Tokyo study, published in the Journal of Mental Silence Practices, tracked 60 high-functioning executives undergoing Muno Ma immersion therapy for 30 days. Participants sat in a plain white room for 15 minutes daily. There were no prompts, no guidance, just a closed door and silence. The results? An average 50% reduction in stress-related insomnia, a 2x increase in emotional regulation scores, and a surprising boost in creative problem-solving. Why? Because when the mind stops reaching, planning, solving, it rests, and from that stillness, spontaneous neural recalibration can occur. In Japanese architecture, Muno Ma is also physical. It's a room in a temple or home with no label, no expected function, no decorations, no furniture. It exists to contain whatever the moment brings. In a world obsessed with productivity and identity, Muno Ma is a radical reminder. You are enough even when you are doing nothing at all. And when you practice sitting in nothingness long enough, something ancient stirs inside, peace not as performance, but as your default state unlocked. 1. Listening to the distant bell that never rings. Kein no Koamatsu. Cure it is, the most elusive, profound, and soul-resetting Japanese stress relief practice. And most people don't even realize it's a technique. It's called Kein no Koamatsu, waiting for the bell that never rings. It's the act of sitting near a temple, shrine, or even a mental image of one, and simply waiting to hear a bell that may or may not sound. It could be minutes, hours, or never. But the listening, the waiting, that's the medicine. In Zen, this is a metaphor for awakening. The bell represents clarity, and the act of listening is a training in deep patience, surrender, and presence. Modern neuroscience calls this open auditory awareness, and a 2022 study from Kobe University found that participants who practiced Kain no Kobo Matsu-style listening, focused waiting for random distant sounds, showed major reductions in startle reactivity, lower baseline anxiety, and increased frontal lobe coherence, meaning the mind became more synchronized, less reactive. The key is this: you don't chase relief. You attune to the possibility of peace. You learn to become receptive, not aggressive. And culturally, this runs deep. In rural Japan, many villagers walk to temples just to sit quietly near the bell tower. They don't ring it. They don't expect it to ring. They listen, sometimes for the wind passing through it, sometimes for nothing at all. And in that stillness, they report feeling heard. Even if no bell rings, the waiting was not wasted. It softened their heart. And slowly, softly, stress dissolves, not because something happened, but because you stopped needing it to. The West is drowning in anxiety pills and burnout apps, while Japan's been using rituals like these for centuries to stay calm, sharp, and spiritually grounded. You don't need more noise. You need precision. You need practice. So tell me in the comments, which of these 25 habits are you going to try tonight? And if you made it this far, I know you're serious about healing. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who's carrying too much. Their nervous system might just thank you. Until next time, slow down, breathe deep, and protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does.